Alright, so for this question, it's kind of nice. We've already given you a picture, so you don't have to draw it yourself. And I just want to point out to you quickly, I accidentally printed the wrong thing. This is a typo. It should be cosecant of C, but this should be right in the version that was on the website. So anyways, this question is about trig functions, specifically inverse trig functions. So I've just kind of written out everything that you need to remember about trig functions. So how I always remember them is so, ka, toa. So the so, that if you break that up, that's gonna mean the S stands for sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, so opposite over hypotenuse. Ka, cosine of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse, that's the CAH. And then toa is tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. And then how we get inverse trig functions is we are just going to take 1 over the regular trig function. That's going to be your inverse trig function. So the one that corresponds to sine is cosecant. So 1 over sine theta equals cosecant theta. The one that corresponds to cosine is secant theta. So 1 over cosine theta equals secant theta. And the one that corresponds to tangent is cotangent. So 1 over tangent theta equals cotangent theta. And just a general fraction rule. If you take 1 over a function, specifically a fraction, that simply means you're switching the numerator and denominator. So the equivalent of 1 over sine theta, which is also equal to cosecant theta, just means we're going to flip the numerator and the denominator. So instead it's going to be hypotenuse over opposite. So we'll do the same thing for secant. We're going to flip it, so hypotenuse over adjacent. And then cotangent, we're going to flip it, so we have adjacent over opposite. And if you haven't learned the inverse trig functions yet, you will learn them in school. But no use starting to learn them now, because trig functions always show up on the ACT. And you got to know the inverse trig functions too. And some people think you have to memorize all 6. So that's these 3 plus these 3, but you really don't. You only need to memorize these main 3 ones and which inverse trig corresponds to which regular trig. Because then you just know, if you know cosecant is the inverse of sine, then you just know to flip it. And that's how you get cosecant. So anyways, let's take a look at this problem now. We'll go back to the picture. So first we're asked to find cotangent of A. So here's our angle for A. And we're finding the product of that times cosecant of C. I'm just going to rewrite that down here. And then first let's figure out what our cotangent of A is. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. So adjacent will be our C. And then opposite is little a. And we're going to multiply that times cosecant of C. So cosecant is going to be hypotenuse over opposite. So our hypotenuse is B, and opposite of C is little c. So if we multiply these 2 fractions together, the c's are going to cancel, so we're just left with B over A. And that is our letter A.